In the spring of 1940, France believed it was ready. Its army was one of the largest in the world. Its defenses were legendary, and its generals were confident that Germany could be stopped. But within 6 weeks, France would collapse. Not after years of brutal fighting, not after endless battles, but with shocking speed. This is the story of how one of Europe's most powerful nations fell almost overnight, and how Germany executed one of the most daring military campaigns in modern history. This is the fall of France. Europe after Poland. By early 1940, Europe was holding its breath. Germany had crushed Poland in just weeks, proving that its new style of warfare, Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, was terrifyingly effective. Tanks, aircraft, and infantry moved as one, overwhelming defenses before they could react. Yet in the West, the war seemed strangely quiet. France and Britain had declared war on Germany in September 1939, but months passed with little fighting. This period became known as the Phony War. French soldiers waited behind their defenses. British troops dug trenches. German forces prepared, silently. Many believed the war would be slow, a repeat of World War I. They were wrong. France's confidence and the Maginot Line. France had one major advantage, or so it believed. The Maginot Line, stretching along the French-German border, this massive system of concrete forts, underground bunkers, artillery positions, and steel defenses was considered impenetrable. It was a monument to fear, built after World War I to ensure that Germany would never invade France again. French strategy revolved entirely around it. If Germany attacked, it would crash against the Maginot Line, just as it had against trench defenses in the previous war. But there was a fatal flaw. The Maginot Line did not extend fully to the Belgian border. France assumed that any German attack through Belgium would be slow and predictable, giving Allied forces time to respond. Germany was counting on that assumption. Hitler's gamble. Adolf Hitler knew that defeating France quickly was essential. Germany could not afford a long war in the West while preparing for future campaigns in the East. A drawn-out conflict would drain resources, morale, and time. So Hitler approved an audacious plan, one that many German generals initially doubted. It was called Fall Gelb, Case Yellow. The idea was simple, yet incredibly risky. Germany would pretend to launch a major attack through Belgium and the Netherlands, exactly where the Allies expected it. Meanwhile, the real strike would come through the Ardennes Forest, a region considered impassable for tanks, a region lightly defended, a region the French believed was safe. The Ardennes, the door left open. The Ardennes was thick, hilly, and densely forested. French commanders believed that large armored forces could never pass through it quickly. At most, they expected minor skirmishes. So instead of elite units, the area was defended by older reservists, poorly equipped and underprepared. Germany saw opportunity. General Erich von Manstein, one of Germany's most brilliant strategists, argued that the Ardennes was the perfect place for a surprise breakthrough. Fast-moving tank divisions would push through the forest, cross the Meuse River, and race toward the English Channel, cutting off Allied armies before they realized what was happening. It was a bold plan. If it failed, Germany's best forces would be trapped and destroyed. But if it succeeded, France would be doomed. May 10, 1940. The storm breaks. At dawn on May 10, 1940, the silence ended. German forces launched simultaneous attacks on Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg. Paratroopers dropped from the sky. Bombers struck airfields and cities. Armored columns rolled forward. The Allies reacted exactly as Germany had hoped. French and British forces rushed north into Belgium, believing this was the main German offensive. Their best units moved away from France's heartland. Meanwhile, German tanks were already moving through the Ardennes. The collapse begins. For days, German panzer divisions advanced almost uncontested. French commanders dismissed early reports as exaggerations. How could tanks move so fast through the forest? They asked. But by the time the truth became clear, it was too late. On May 13th, German forces reached the Meuse River near Sedan. French defenses crumbled under relentless air attacks. German engineers crossed the river. Tanks poured through the breach. France's defensive line was broken. The lightning war had arrived. As German tanks surged westward, panic spread through Allied headquarters. The French army was being outflanked. British forces were in danger of encirclement, and Paris lay exposed. In the next part, we will see how Germany's armored spearhead raced toward the sea, and how the Allied armies found themselves trapped in one of the most dramatic moments of World War II. As German armored columns broke through the French defenses at Sedan, panic began to spread across Allied command. French generals, trained to fight a slow and defensive war, struggled to understand what was unfolding. Reports of fast-moving German tanks racing through the Ardennes were dismissed as exaggerations. By the time commanders realized the scale of the breakthrough, Germany's panzer divisions were already pouring into open territory. The speed of the German advance shocked everyone. Tanks did not stop to secure flanks or wait for infantry. They pushed forward relentlessly, supported by dive bombers that shattered enemy morale. French communication lines collapsed, orders arrived too late, and units were left isolated. What was supposed to be a solid defensive line dissolved into confusion and retreat. As the German spearhead surged west, British and French forces in Belgium suddenly found themselves in grave danger. They had advanced north to meet what they believed was the main German attack. Now, behind them, the enemy was racing toward the English Channel. If German tanks reached the coast, the Allied armies would be completely cut off. On May 20th, 1940, the unthinkable happened. German forces reached the sea near Abbeville. The trap had closed. Hundreds of thousands of British and French soldiers were now surrounded, with the German army to the south and east, and the sea to the north. One of the greatest encirclements in military history was complete. Inside the pocket, chaos ruled. Supplies ran low, morale collapsed, and air attacks intensified. The British Expeditionary Force faced annihilation. France's allies were on the brink of total defeat. Yet, in the midst of disaster, a narrow window of hope appeared along the northern coast of France, a small port city called Dunkirk. As German forces tightened the noose, Allied commanders made a desperate decision. They would attempt an evacuation across the English Channel. It was a gamble that depended on time, weather, and sheer luck. Every hour mattered. Every delay could mean destruction. Meanwhile, a controversial order from Hitler halted German tanks just outside Dunkirk. The reasons remain debated to this day: concern over terrain, confidence in air power, or political calculation. Whatever the reason, that pause gave the Allies a chance they should never have had. What followed was a dramatic race against time. Under constant bombardment, soldiers lined the beaches, waiting for rescue. Warships, fishing boats, and civilian vessels crossed dangerous waters to bring them home. Against all odds, hundreds of thousands escaped. But while Dunkirk became a symbol of survival, France itself was collapsing. German armies turned south. Paris stood defenseless. Refugees flooded the roads. The French government fled the capital, and the once proud nation prepared for the unimaginable. In just weeks, France had been shattered. A campaign expected to last months was over almost before it had begun. Germany stood victorious, and Europe was forever changed. As German forces turned south after Dunkirk, France's situation became hopeless. The evacuation had saved the British army, but it left the French mainland exposed and vulnerable. The German high command quickly shifted its focus toward the heart of France. What followed was not a slow advance, but a relentless collapse that spread faster than anyone had imagined. German panzer divisions advanced with terrifying speed, bypassing strong points and pushing deep into French territory. Luftwaffe bombers dominated the skies, striking roads, railways, and communication centers. French units attempted to regroup, but without coordination or air support, resistance crumbled. Entire divisions surrendered without firing a shot, overwhelmed by the pace of the enemy. The French civilian population now experienced the full horror of defeat. Millions fled their homes, clogging roads with carts, cars, and refugees carrying whatever they could save. This mass exodus, known as the Great Flight, paralyzed movement and added to the chaos. Soldiers and civilians moved side by side, uncertain where safety could be found. On June 10, 1940, Italy declared war on France, sensing an easy victory. This final blow further shattered French morale. With enemies advancing from multiple directions, France's leadership faced an impossible choice: continue fighting and risk total destruction, or seek an armistice to save what remained of the nation. Paris, the cultural and political heart of France, was declared an open city to avoid its destruction. On June 14th, German troops marched into the French capital without resistance. Swastika flags were raised, and German soldiers paraded through streets that had once symbolized freedom and power. The fall of Paris shocked the world. Inside the French government, divisions deepened. Some leaders wanted to continue the fight from overseas colonies. Others believed surrender was the only option. Marshal Philippe Pétain, a hero of World War I, argued that further resistance would only bring unnecessary suffering. His voice carried weight, and his decision would change France's future. On June 22, 1940, France signed an armistice with Germany. In a moment heavy with symbolism, the agreement was signed in the same railway carriage where Germany had surrendered in 1918. For Hitler, it was revenge. For France, it was humiliation. The country was divided. Northern France fell under direct German occupation, while the South became the Vichy state, a government that collaborated with Nazi Germany. French sovereignty was shattered, and the Third Republic came to an end. Europe now stood under the shadow of German dominance. The fall of France stunned the world. In just 6 weeks, one of Europe's strongest military powers had been defeated. Britain now stood alone against Nazi Germany. Across the Atlantic, the United States watched with growing concern. The balance of power had shifted, and the war was far from over. With France defeated, Germany stood at the height of its power. In a matter of weeks, Hitler had achieved what Germany failed to accomplish in 4 years during the First World War. The speed and scale of the victory shocked military experts around the world. Blitzkrieg was no longer a theory, it was now proven as a devastating reality. For Hitler, the fall of France was more than a military success. It was a personal triumph. The humiliation Germany had suffered in 1918 was symbolically reversed. Standing victorious in Paris, Hitler believed his destiny was unfolding exactly as he had imagined. His confidence grew, and with it, his ambition expanded beyond the West. Britain, now isolated, faced its darkest hour. Without France as an ally, the British Empire stood alone against Nazi Germany. Yet, instead of seeking peace, Britain chose resistance. The evacuation at Dunkirk had saved an army, and that army would soon be called upon to defend the skies over Britain. Inside occupied France, life changed overnight. German troops controlled cities and countryside alike. Resources were seized, freedoms vanished, and fear became part of daily life. The Vichy government cooperated with Germany, while resistance movements slowly began to form in secret. France was defeated, but it was not broken. The fall of France reshaped the war entirely. Germany gained control of vast resources, strategic coastlines, and military bases stretching from the Arctic to the Bay of Biscay. The threat of invasion now loomed over Britain, and the Battle of Britain was about to begin. At the same time, Hitler's attention was already drifting eastward. Victory in the West convinced him that no army could withstand German power. Plans were quietly forming for an even greater gamble, an invasion that would draw Germany into a war of unimaginable scale. The fall of France was not the end of the conflict. It was the beginning of a new and far more dangerous phase of World War II, a phase where the fate of nations would be decided not in months, but in years of total war. In the next episode, the world watches as Hitler turns his gaze toward Britain, and the skies over Europe become the battlefield. The struggle for survival is about to reach a new level.